LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Now listen. The last time I talked to my friend Larry on the phone, he said, "Bone Man, I'm finally getting the cul-de-sac." Okay, quick note about the whole Bone Man thing. Larry has called me Bone Man since I can remember. I don't know where it came from, but it stuck. Another married straight friend of mine, Jim, started calling me T-Bone, and that stuck. Yo, T-Bone, what's happening? Okay, what's with the bone thing? None of my gay friends call me Bone Man or T-Bone, and you would think, although I admit, I kind of like it. Larry and I were both aspiring actors back in the early 90s, and we worked together on the night shift at a law firm. We were both having bits of success at that time, but obviously still needed to schlep to downtown LA 4 nights a week to pay our bills. We made the best of a tedious job. We would get on the intercom at night and try out character voices. We had pizza and beer night every Thursday, and of course, we utilized the printers, free copy paper, and labels for our actor mailings and scripts we were writing. Still, it was a frustrating time, and we both felt stuck. On top of it all, Larry and his wife had the added pressure of a new baby. It was not long after the '94 Northridge earthquake. He packed up his wife and newborn and got out of town and moved to Florida. But it's great. All these decades later, Larry and Bone Man get on the phone and pick up right where we left off. Now, Larry's cul-de-sac reference during our phone call was to his hair finally receding back and leaving a virtual flesh cul-de-sac on the top of his head. Oh, I relished my fabulous 80s hair, and, let's face it, I had the right decade to have it in. And I admit, once it started thinning, it was traumatic, and I went through various stages of hair loss. Denial. Oh, that was just a bad haircut. Open weeping. Oh my God, I'm starting to look like my Uncle Newt. And finally, I just don't care. The upsides are, I don't need hair dryers, and I rarely get hat hair. A big downside is that the follicles that once adorned my head seem to have gravitated to my ears and nose. I can take care of the hair on my nose, but I go to this Persian woman for the ears. She also happens to be a numerologist. As she stares at me through her 8,000 times magnifying glass and goes at my ears with tweezers and hot wax, she always makes me laugh. "You were born in '63. You are a rabbit. You make good money this year. You need to scrub your skin. I have new client who warned me. I have very hairy pussy." I hoped that her new client was talking about her furry feline, but apparently that was not the case. Oh my God, it was like waxing gorilla. It just goes to show you that every job has its downside. I had never heard of balding referred to as a cul-de-sac. In a neighborhood, a cul-de-sac can be a fancy name for a street that's really just a dead end. There's this girl I knew back in Iowa, and she recently posted on social media that her husband walked out on her. She was understandably heartbroken, and her posts vacillate between extreme heartache. My life is at a dead end. I need to sage myself. I can't handle one more thing. To Dr. Phil proclamations like, "Best day ever. I've got this. Wahoot." And sometimes these are within hours of each other. Now, I have no doubt she's going through hell, although she did post pictures of the guy, and he kind of did her a favor. Bubba wasn't attractive, nor did he seem to be the brightest bulb on the tree. But I feel bad that she feels her life is at a dead end. Why not say she's at a cul-de-sac? Because isn't that really what it is? My friend Kelly used to live in a lovely little cul-de-sac not far from the Ventura Freeway. When I suggested it was very quiet for where it was because people are only there who belong there, she said, "Oh, we get these SOBs who pull off the freeway, sit in their cars, then throw their empty booze bottles and used condoms out their windows and take off." Okay, so I guess not everybody who ends up in a cul-de-sac means to be there, but they eventually leave. And how many times in our lives do we hit cul-de-sacs, literally and figuratively? Oh my God, a lot. And sometimes we sit there for a while, terrified, afraid to move. When I think back to growing up in Urbandale, Iowa, I am amazed at the lack of fear I had about things, especially trying new things. My best friend Tony and I saw the first national tour of A Chorus Line when we were 17, and it was life-changing. Not only was it titillating and had a gay kid telling his story, but the music was fabulous and tuneful, and the dancing was amazing. I knew I could sing, I knew I could act and make people laugh, but after seeing a chorus line, I decided that I could dance. God, I'm a dancer dances. The only caveat when declaring yourself a dancer is that you really should like to dance. And even more than that, kind of be good at it. Tony and I had danced in various productions at the Des Moines Community Playhouse, and I had to dance a little bit when I played Daddy Warbucks in the musical Annie in our garage theater. It wasn't taxing since our stage was only about 7.5 feet wide, and in reality we were more worried about stepping on our blind dog, Tracy, whom we had cast as Annie's dog Sandy. Being a dancer meant dance classes, and we dove into them at the Des Moines Ballet. Tony turned out to be really good. No, gifted at dancing. Our teacher, Janice, had utmost patience with me for a while. We were supposed to make the very famous ballet pose, an arabesque. It's where the dancer stands on one leg, the supporting leg, and the other leg, the working leg, is turned out and extended behind the body at a 90-degree angle. Your arm gracefully extends upward. Yeah, right. This was not a natural pose for my 6'1" frame, and Janice, in frustration, finally grabbed my extended leg and had a fellow student grab my extended arm. All the while, I tottered on my working leg. It was humiliating. I looked like a yuppie seesaw in a headband, dance belt, and leg warmers being torn apart at the limbs. Thankfully, I did get cast in musicals that didn't require a lot of dancing, or a gifted choreographer made me look like I could dance. Mame, Follies, and these were really good productions with stars like Juliet Prowse and Joanne Worley. But because of my type and my youth, there was still the occasional nightmare dance audition. And now I was in the big time where you were auditioning with people who just didn't want to be dancers. They were dancers. The fear monster was starting to roar, but I kept my hope alive that, God, I'm a dancer, and a dancer dances, right? In 1993, Bone Man and Larry were working downtown at night, and I auditioned for the American premiere of Andrew Lloyd Webber's new musical, Sunset Boulevard, opening in Los Angeles and then going to Broadway. I had seen it in London, and I was perfect for it. One of my co-stars in Follies and I had gone through several auditions and were down to the wire for the job, and we both got called in for the final audition. A dance audition. And it really wasn't a dancing show. Now, Ed had a great singing voice and was an established Broadway name, and I confess, I was secretly happy that he was a much worse dancer than me. It was unfortunate that a really cruel woman dancer was running the audition. She was just mean. She kept the half dozen of us who were really good singers in the back with all the other special needs dancers. It was awful. We were made to feel like we didn't belong there. And why I didn't focus on the fact that the famous director, Trevor Nunn, had chosen me over all the people who hadn't been invited to this crappy callback was just stupid. Dumb, Tony. Welcome to Fear 101. I let that hideous woman get to me, and I froze. And I didn't get the job, and I was devastated. I sat in that virtual cul-de-sac in my head thinking, well, that's just it. If I can't even get cast in something I was perfect for, then what am I doing in this business? And then Larry left town, and Sunset Boulevard opened and went to Broadway without me. But an amazing thing happened. Feeling stuck and sorry for myself in that cul-de-sac, I had the realization that, okay, you know what? I don't even really like dancing. I look like Ellen DeGeneres when I'm dancing, and it is not pretty. Suddenly, it was like this huge weight lifted off my being. And I started booking national TV jobs and commercials, a lot of them. And a few years later, I got my Christmas bonus from the law firm, cashed it, thanked them for all the free office supplies over the years, and quit the next day. I had backed my car out of that cul-de-sac, figuratively thrown out my used booze bottles and condoms, and taken off down a different road. And it had paid off. My stepmom's mother, Joyce Patrick, was in her 80s when I met her, and she was an amazing artist. I own a half dozen of her gorgeous paintings, and I interviewed her on video in her studio not long before she passed. She was destroying a painting she had created and wasn't happy with, but she was taking the pieces and recreating them into something completely new and even more beautiful. When I asked her about it, she blurted out, "No fear, no fear." And she had none. Even if she did, she pushed through it, as we all do. Cul-de-sacs happen to everybody. It's okay to sit there for a while. Just don't forget to back up and get yourself back onto that road. My friend Larry has made quite a name for himself in Florida, running a very successful catering business, and now going on TV as Chef Larry. That was one of his gifts. And yes, as I approach cul-de-sac status on my head, Bone Man has had several decades enjoying my gifts. Telling stories, writing tuneful music, making people laugh. And I don't have to go to dance calls anymore. Thankfully, I'm too old. But more importantly, I don't want to. So there. I heard some time ago that the mean dancer who had run that Sunset Boulevard callback had died, and I must admit that I, like Morales in a chorus line, felt nothing. LOL take two, LOL take two, LOL take two, ba 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 bum.